go out and say, why do we have the water available to go support the general plan? And we do. It's,
What general plan?
Don't be like that.
It's a serious question.
it is a serious question.
I mean, it doesn't exist, we don't have any idea what's in it, and
Well,
Not water.
It doesn't have a water element.
the water element, yeah. But ultimately, it is the document that we are signed the plan against. And we have that obligation, and we can fulfill it within any reasonable expectation. I mean, ultimately, it goes back to our development code and the way we put it on. The component of the project picks up the costs that go in this infrastructure, and ultimately, that's where it lays. We have those policies in place. Arguably, some of our policies are counter-purpose to your goal, but I would argue that your policies are counter-purpose to the other policies. And ultimately, because we may want to talk about how do we clean some of that stuff up. And why do we want to go clean that stuff up? It's because we stumble when we try to communicate our roles and effectively to the customer. And
Well, some of our restrictions though are budget restrictions. I mean, we can enhance how we do sheep ranch, but that's a budget constraint, and it's also a rate constraint. So those we know what to do, but the ability to do it, we're kind of hamstrung.
well, getting back to, what you said, the opportunity, I think it is a good opportunity to talk about, why we're so much more fortunate in Tuolumne and Amador County, because what will happen from this whole drought, what was the word that I just heard, hysteria, is people are going to say, well, oh my gosh, another subdivision? What about our water?
I'm conserving water so you can build.
Let me tell you, so there's an opportunity and I think a responsibility, because I still think we can grow and we should grow substantially, and most of the new growth is going to be in small developments, small lot developments that we like. And I mean, that's going to be our growth in Calaveras County over the next 20, 25 years. But this is an opportunity to talk about, about how we currently are using 4,000 acre feet at Hogan, where we have a permit that says we can use 31,000. And that we can, even with drought scenarios, we foresee well into the future, even with the minimum yield that we believe we can have. I think we should be having that discussion, either via media or however, we just had, the Board of Supervisors just wanted to take the water district over. Just 3 meetings ago. I don't know if anybody else saw that. But there's like, water is such an important issue, we got to take control over water. We had more than 2 supervisors making that claim. And I don't know a single supervisor that knows a damn thing about water rights, or what the hell they should be doing with it. And I just look at this as an incredible opportunity to not just educate the public, typically when you educate the public, you'll educate the leaders, and it goes in that way. You can't necessarily educate the leaders and expect them to educate the public.
But in fact, what you said, I think is a great soundbite in terms of branding and messaging, which is we are different than Amador and Tuolumne. We have adequate water supplies to meet all the projected growth within our service areas in the next 20 years. We have fulfilled our obligations to comply with those elements of the law in spirit as well as in word. And I think that's the reality is we have a developer who's now starting a brand new subdivision, or a brand new component of a subdivision in this county. And ultimately, I hope it's the right place and the right size and the right style to support the general plan. But those land use planning decisions can be supported by water and wastewater services in this county.
And I think, but this is the perfect time to be talking about it, because it is a time when people are paying attention to water and water supply. Typically, they're not. But if we let this opportunity go past, then we're going to have hundreds of people go to these meetings. If some development comes forward and say, you know, I had to ration last year. You guys made me ration. Why are you gonna let this development occur?
And that's why we, you know, I think it fits the idea that stewardship and conservation are always appropriate, as opposed to, and that's a cultural piece or behavioral piece as opposed to this regulatory piece of rationing. But unless you get out the words in front, you're right, it will be, oh, you guys rationing.
Right.
You know, Mitch, you talk about Southern California, and I appreciate you having that. You know, I'm fully aware of what the Met's been able to do down there. I'm wondering have they set their rates in such a manner in order to create this safety net that they have? Or is it just by virtue of they think real well into the future and they take their existing revenues and create the safety nets?
Well, you shouldn't be asking a former board member of San Diego whether or not Mets rates are the fact of the matter is, they looked to the future and laid out a future of becoming more water self-reliant a long time ago. And so ultimately, but their whole pricing structure is different. And so it made it easier to look at the business decisions behind that and how they shifted and how they aligned costs amongst the Met family of agencies. So they really did two things. They did the planning. They looked at it long term. And then they also did get the financial tools in place that were necessary to go off and build a Diamond Valley Reservoir, to go off and put incentives in place so that agencies started groundwater banking, agencies started brackish desalting and groundwater banking. So all those were done with incentive programs that were brought forward by Met. And those are the types of things that, as much as you hear me complain about the integrated regional water programs, and the fact that the Prop 84 money so often has been misspent because they weren't looking for integration and water resource types of enhancements. It was more of agencies went in to get what they could get out of it and walked away and funded their projects, regardless of if it was a water resource enhancement. So we ended up with little water destruction facilities going around county, and that didn't enhance resources. Whereas Net typically pooled and funneled those things towards larger programs, and successful. You can't, when you got that many ratepayers, a few mistakes don't show.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Dennis, and then Ken has a question.
A little bit off topic, but is California now seeding clouds?
Yes. Well, excuse me. Who's asking?
Me?
The state of California, DWR, is in fact doing some cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is also done by NCPA, and cloud seeding is done by other select agencies. I think PG&E, I believe, cloud seeds.
Yeah.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, so there's a fairly aggressive cloud seeding program.
I'm just curious. I read an article recently that they were starting to reintroduce and increase cloud seeding, but I haven't really heard any reports on it.
Yeah, cloud seeding is one of those activities that's normally considered financially marginal, but it's one that they do, and then the recipients of cloud seeding have some environmental concerns. That movement is getting more and more afoot via the internet. Yeah.
Just for curiosity, and I don't understand, there's the feds in the states, and they have their own means of deciding what water goes where, the allocation process. And it seems like to me there was an article a while back that I think had your name on it that said something to the effect of use it or lose it. And if we're too drought conscious and save too much water in the long run, would that mean that somebody will decide that, gee, you got a whole bunch of water up there, let's pick up and put it down here instead, you don't need it?
That title wasn't my choice of title. I think the gist of the argument was that it really should be used for purposes of our economic activity. And really, it's a call for the kind of activity I think that Director Davidson and Director Stump were just talking about, which is figuring out how to create activity in the county, whether it's the house building, that you use home building as a lead for your services-based economy, whether you're going to go out and try to grab an industrial facility and put it someplace like Toyota and figure that you build it, they'll come. All of which were things that people tried. But the idea is you have to have a plan, and you have to have that kind of thought behind what you're going to do. And the whole point was to say, we have water in Calveras County, and for better or for worse, when I write that kind of article, it's often focused on trying to get people to come and do things and look to see that we have water and we should be doing things.
Ken, here's the other scary issue when you cry conserve. Some agencies, they get such a great response when they go into this drought that they have to do a conservation surcharge because they reduce their revenue by such a significant amount, they got to raise their rates to make up for the budget shortfall.
Wallaby's talking about doing that right now.
Right now.
Right, but it can totally backfire. What I'm saying is people do a good job of voluntarily cutting back when you say that, but the district's revenues will be reduced because they don't use as much water. They don't go into the tiered structure, so we end up receiving less money to operate things, and we got to go back to the average ratepayer. So we want another $5.
And this is kind of what was alluded to in the earlier discussion, though, is every district has a little different rate structure in terms of how they weigh their fixed revenues and variable costs. We have a very solid building block of costs and cost recovery in our system. And this is exactly why you defend that type of structure. Where somebody says, hey, why have I charged so much? It's because when you hit these tough times, your rates don't have those fluctuations.
Well, what I hope we'll do is continue to talk about this sort of thing, because I'm like, for me, asking us to reduce our water usage is a lot like, asking people that live in Carmel not to look at the ocean. We're lucky, we got a lot of water. It's ours to use, or it's supposed to be ours to use, but we're being told not to use it. What I hope we do is when we have these conversations is, one, we talk about how fortunate we are to be such a water-rich county, how it's our responsibility to still, preserve and protect the quality and consumption, but I would rather us, talk about, not don't have your garden, but, these are water-wise ways to use less water in your garden. If you have trees out there now, think about drip irrigation. Do that sort of conservation program as opposed to, telling people, tear your lawns out,
And ultimately, the question goes back to, do we want to see people continue to put in large lawns or see better options for low water using landscapes? Because as you know, a house today with low water fixtures and the way they're just simply built are much more water and energy efficient.
Well, yeah, there are new faucet head requirements and
as a result, those conservation measures do get built in, and over time, they will be developing factors. So that's why having some better examples of water landscapes or water-saving, fire-resistant landscapes in our community make a lot of sense.
I do think it would be important, and I don't know where we're headed here, if we're actually going to begin a public relations process, but even I think we do always have to have that caveat in any discussion about, look, this could get worse. If it does get worse, you should know that your landscaping is not an asset that the district is responsible for. And so if you're planning a landscape project, it would be a good idea not to plan a great big giant lawn area, because you may lose that one day. Because people always will talk about the economic value of their landscaping, saying, you know, I just paid $40,000 for this landscaping and now it's all gonna die. And then they come to us and complain about it. I mean, we should at least, because it could get worse. We could have to go into, a significant rationing.
It could, and it may, but for the time being, this is where our preparedness going forward is important. And this is where the current opportunity of looking and shaping investment, as we talk about water policy, towards the infrastructure. We know what we see, what the water loss once we replaced the infrastructure at West Point. We expect to see, cameras on me, I expect to see a couple of wet areas go away once we replace Reach 3. That we have water running in roadside ditches at times and places where it should not be running in roadside ditches. And so ultimately, investing in infrastructure is going to be a conservation tool that we're going to see the benefit of. We've got to invest in watershed resiliency. This is the thing that we'll continue to see and stress because, again, I think it's great for our economy. When people see the value of investing back into our watershed and the resiliencies in our watershed, it's an important piece. It's also an important piece as we see climate change affecting snowpack. And that free storage that was available in snow is not going to be there, at least at the elevations that we've been used to seeing. Enhancing the soils and making sure that the forests are retaining as much of that moisture and doing soil releases is key. Because our system is dependent upon what we get each year. We've got a little bit of carryover storage for a year. So that first year drought never really hurts us too bad. It's that second year drought that we get stressed, or that third year drought that really concerns us. And so the resiliency of the watershed is our water bank, because we get the first sip of that straw. And then I've got to go back to regulatory relief, regulatory realignment. We need flexibility in water transfers. I know it's not necessarily popular, but the fact of the matter is there are people that also need this water. And once it leaves our county, it's not doing the kind of economic stimulation back into our economy. And dollars back to us are dollars back in for the benefit of our ratepayer. Whether it's to expand our infrastructure or replace our infrastructure, or whether it's to hold costs down, this goes right back to Director Stubbs' comment about being a subsidized rate base. And so if we can subsidize rate base by working it without detriment to our customers, we ought to be doing that. And we have conflicting jurisdictional overlays. This is where, for flood control, you have to release water. For FERC, you have to hold water. And you get all confused with these conflicting jurisdictions that plays out for water rights. And so ultimately, looking at the way that is going to play out in the future is really important for us because our North Fork project is a resource that we have to continue to leverage in every way we can. And we can't have the FERC obligations competing with our traditional water rights, competing with our environmental obligations, competing with our recreational obligations. We have to be able to streamline that. So that's a regulatory realignment is key to helping us get there. We recently were given some specific release by the U.S. Congress. Unfortunately, the Senate didn't see it that way. The government didn't see it that way, but the U.S. Congress actually passed a bill to give Calaveras County water to 100,000 acre storage in New Melones. We're actually directed the Chief of the Bureau to negotiate that with us. Would have been a heck of a tool to have had that kind of storage capacity within the existing federal facility that's in our county that currently benefits everybody outside our county. And so Senator Einstein's bill was introduced yesterday, and there's a very small line in there that's a nod of the hat and a wink at us that says if we're careful, we might be able to actually still go back and negotiate with the Bureau, at least for the benefit of some of our neighboring agencies like TUD.
That was in the Democratic proposal?
That's in Senator Feinstein's bill.
And did it mention us in the CCWD? Okay.
No, but it was certainly the intent for us to be able to assist in emergency measures. So
And what the Republican congressman came up with actually mentioned CCWD and Maloney's.
we
And
had our own paragraph. in there.
yeah.
Own paragraph.
Well, the two got to come together, right?
Well, ultimately, it'll depend, depending on how the conference committee sees it, whether or not these two instruments, legislative instruments, get aligned to see the same instrument. We'll see. It may or may not work that
I
way.
really like your optimism.
Has that happened yet?
Well, no, like he says, if they align, then they have to go into conference and they have to they have to agree on a bill together, so, you know.
CCWD is easy to spell.
It was good to see it spelled right.
Yeah, I spelled it right.
It's a squeaky wheel.
And we do need to get out front with some common sense messaging. And now's the time to do that. There's a ton of them out there. One of the key things that I know is giving people things that are tangible. When you talk about that 20%, that's kind of esoteric. What does it really mean? Well, that means you don't flush your toilet what's 20%? Is it 20 gallons? No, it's not. Is it 196 gallons? That's according to them, it is. I don't know what agency had that high usage, but that's where this came up. So it'd be 40 gallons for these people, or 38 gallons. So how many times do they need to not flush? I guess the governor's captured turning off your water when you brush your teeth and all that important things. The reality is people have to make personal choices. And many of these things have been thrown out there, but we don't even hear them because it just becomes noise in the background. If and when we get serious about it, we really do need to get people the tools so they can look at their landscapes, because it's all about the landscapes, particularly on this side of Highway 49. It's all about the landscapes.
Well, and lot size,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
It's how much space you're getting.
right.
We do have some water conservation tools and resources on the website. There's a couple of them that are posted. We are going to move forward, getting some of our landscaping here as a demonstration garden arrangements, working with, again, Julie Dean has been terrific, working with native plant folks and master gardeners, trying to create some vignettes of spot-specific or site-specific water-conserving types of plants, so they can see how they might actually fit or be used in a landscape. And it's not just all about, the cactus. It's not all about just dead-looking things. They're vibrant, they're green, and they really can pop when they're put together with the right combination of rocks. And I got to tell you that Director Dean really relates to rocks.
It's the hard head.
I couldn't agree more.
He's carved that out as his niche. Are there any questions or comments?
I appreciate the idea that we have fill stations down in Copper and Jenny Lynn. I'd like to think about doing that up in the West Point and Arnold area. We're starting to get anecdotal reports from people that their wells were 20 gallons a minute, now they're 2 gallons a minute, and I'd like to be able to support that. I even had somebody telling me their neighbor is getting water from them and they're running 3 hoses across the street over to their house. So I think for groundwater, this is going to be a real big deal for the county. I would like to be seen as the leaders in this in terms of being able to help support those people with adequate charges associated with it, so our ratepayers aren't subsidizing this.
I have an interesting conversation at a dinner meeting last week where I was asked to personally take charge of an armed revolt against the state and the federal governments to keep our water. And
We'll put a 20 millimeter gun on the front of your plane and go. Keep your nose up.
Did you want CCWD to lead that, or are you going to lead that, or?
And the other issue is if and I get to where I even hate to start into any conversations on water rights and what we have rights to use and because as soon as I start trying to explain any of the restrictions on what we can and can't do, all I get is people just start going ballistic on me.
The world of water rights is certainly one that, it's nothing that made attorneys wealthy. I believe in that comment, I guess. And there's a reason for it, is they're complex. And they don't layer together the way you would think they layer together, and the moment you get into an extraordinary situation, the layers even peel apart. Then you look at competing requirements. Water rights are complex, and anybody that tells you that they fully understand water rights,
I was, at the last EPOC meeting, I was told that we need to put in bigger pipes to retain more of our water rights.
yes, we'll take that into consideration.
We might want to start a distillery too, because we're not fighting over whiskey.
But I mean, the reality is, it's very complex, and none of us, I don't think any one person can ever really say they're truly an expert in water rights. So it's just very.
There's attorneys that say that.
And when it comes to modeling and different conditions for modeling, it takes a combination of people, and there probably are very few agencies, in fact, there's no agency our size, I can guarantee you, has as complex a water right arrangement as we have. That's, our water right complexity competes with almost any in the state. I can tell you, down Imperial Irrigation, largest water agency in the country. They have more water. Their water rights are easy. Our water rights are extraordinarily challenging and difficult and complex because of all the competing demands, the three basins, and just simply the historic land. It is what it is. Unfortunately, as you all know, it's not cheap to settle these. No.
There was a article, a presentation the other day on the radio about how I believe it was Oakdale is in the process of selling or considering trying to work through the regulations to sell Tuolumne County some water. And
Tuolumne County has talked with us, they've talked with Queens, Brighton, Oakdale, South San Joaquin.
oh no, it was South San Joaquin, I beg your pardon.
Their board of directors approved humanitarian relief to the good people of Tuolumne County. That's where the water comes from.
Yeah.
The ability to sell them water at a bargain price. And so, yes, South San Joaquin has made that arrangement. Part of that goal of our federal bill would be so that Tuolumne could perhaps use part of our allotment during the situations they are in. And we'll see how it works out.
You know, the striking thing in that agreement was South San Joaquin sold the water to the tribe, and the tribe is selling it to the county. I think that's very, very telling in terms of our neighbor's situation.
Yes.
Okay, are we done,
That concludes my report.
okay.
Oh, Mr. Button.
See if I kind of understand this. If we could get the Board of Supervisors to approve a 500-home subdivision for copper, and the developer puts in the infrastructure, which CCWD later takes over, and hopefully it's done halfway decently, and CCWD ends up with 500 new monthly ratepayers, then the rest of the ratepayers could get a reduction in their rates because of the increased income, correct?
No. Nice thought, though.
At least they'd have more people to share the pain with.
No, but what it is it's 500 more people paying a nickel of the general manager's salary.
Yes.
So pretty soon that turns to 4 cents.
The reality is 500 additional connections that the differential of the loss of subsidy is probably offset to make it a desirable approach. We talked about needing to grow. We need to grow in those kinds of blocks and clusters in order to make the kind of offsetting contribution on the fixed charge so that the little bleeding on the subsidy goes
Now, I
down.
mean, if you're digging from a bigger pool, then it should be, have an effect of lowering the individual rate payment.
It was spread your fixed costs.
Right.
Except it also diluted the piece of the fixed costs that was subsidized. And so, the end of the day is, it's not necessarily going to reduce your overall cost. You're gonna have some increased costs as well. We're gonna need to do that much more treatment, that much more pumping, that much more, of everything else. So the services rendered for those additional rate pays is part of what that bill also includes. But there will be more people to contribute to the backlog of infrastructure that needs to be addressed.
But there would be more surplus than without that particular addition.
No.
Surplus is probably not the term you would call it, but certainly there's more people to share the game with. It wouldn't be bad.
More income compared to what the expense of that would be, that I call a surplus or a profit, which is spread out with all of the ratepayers. That's the concept anyway.
It's more money to put in the secret vault that we have there.
Yes.
Okay,
I like my concept of it.
I do too. If it worked.
Move on.
Okay.
thank you, Mitch. Are you continuing?
But that, this was intended to go like that.
Oh, okay.
That will be part of the,
All right, moving on. Item 6, Committee and Joint Power Authority reports and other regional organizations of note. Anyone have anything to report?
I've got Finance Committee report. We had a Finance Committee meeting on January 27th. Exceptionally good meeting, I thought.
Very good.
We updated, got an update on the capital repair and replacement projects. We talked about the how to best fill the district engineer position. We got some discussion regarding the quarterly financial report. We also got a preview of Jeff's presentation on budget goals. We had discussion regarding CCTV broadcasting, and we had a discussion regarding providing wholesale services to other agencies. This was a preliminary discussion item. I'm anticipating it's going to come to the board for a board review of potential policy changes into the future. And that was the Finance Committee meeting. Did you want me to talk about Mountain County's board?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mountain County's board met February 4th, and the real big takeaway with that is we were looking at the potential of merging with Sierra Water Work Group so that they could provide the support to our members regarding IRWMs in the region. They're struggling right now, and their funding is eliminated in June, but they're hopefully finding some additional money to carry on. We've never felt that the Sierra Water Work Group really gave the support necessary for the IRWMs in the region, and we were hoping by merging we were going to be able to turn that around and make it a more viable organization for the IRWMs. So what the board has determined that we're no longer able to have these discussions because we can't put this stuff off. The Prop 84 money is going to be significant within the region this year and with funding next year. And we want to make sure that the Mountain County IRWMs are getting their fair share and it's being utilized well. So we formed a new committee. This will be our 4th committee that Mountain Counties oversees and it'll be an IRWM committee, and we've established it with five members, and we hope to start especially educational seminars for the IRWMs so that they can get a better handle on how to be more successful into the future. So that was the big takeaway for me at this point.
Thank you, Don. Any other committee, JPA, or regional?
Ooh, I've got one more, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, keep going.
On January 24th, I had UMRA meeting, and it was, we had a MoQuise update on the meeting, which is real interesting to me, because this is a huge amount of money for planning for interregional. This is basically the valley and up into the mountains. This committee has a huge number of people involved in it, and it isn't the first time that we've tried to have interregional potential. It's gotten sidetracked in the past. I'm hoping that it can be more successful. I'm probably a little frustrated that it's not going to be exceptionally beneficial at this point that I can see for CCWD. So I think Mitch spends most of the time on the MoQuise side of things, but I'm not involved in the slightest other than being on the board itself. So he can give a further report if he has anything on that. But the other things that we discussed was the grant guidelines that we have to come for the next Prop 84 stuff, and looking at how we're going to deal with providing the support for the different members in terms of being able to do this successfully. I don't know, did you have anything you want to talk about MoQuise?
At this point with MoQuise, the key is they're looking for some projects. And so ultimately, we probably have a couple key projects. But one of the most important things we're going to get out of MoQuise is perhaps a new turnoff of the aqueduct that had not previously been available to the county, and make sure that that thing occurs on our side of the county line.
And that's all I've got for UMRA.
Jeff had a comment over there.
Jeff, you had something to add?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd just like to give an update on the T-stand.
Okay.
The T-stand received notification last week that round 2 implementation grant funding was, for the T-stand, was up from 75% to 100%. So we will receive 100% of funding for our project, which is the Douglas Flat Fallacy Storage Project. However, a more significant note, I am now passing the baton over to Director Dean, so all further actions and reports from the T-stand will come from Director Dean.
Thank you, and I hope he brings as good a news as you do. Any other committee reports? I'm just going to report real briefly ongoing. The Park and Rec project in Valley Springs is moving forward. January 29th had a meeting at the Rancho Calaveras Community Center, and had about a turnout of 30-40 people showed up there. I think the fact that the chamber event was going on the same night might have dipped into our attendance. But it's a lot of discussion, still going on, still moving forward, and it's on that 55 acres of CCWD property down there. Okay, they'll end that committee report. Any legislative update? Mitch, is that yours?
I provided you all a summary of some recent state and federal legislation. To be frank, it's still early in the season. We'll see how this plays out. I've covered the other 2 issues that happened regarding the House of Representatives and now with Senator Feinstein's office.
Thank
There's
you.
that new bond proposal that was put out by the Republican members that kicks up the money that they're proposing to 9.4 billion as opposed to the 11.14, which is the one on the ballot currently. Just one more piece of the salad, that's all.
One more, as ultimately we go to the bond and seeing what's going to be, palatable out there. There's right now, we have everything, we have both ends of the spectrum, I think, picked out right now, whereas Woke has no storage and nothing for the hill. Then to Congressman up in North Central Valley, he has all storage. So, and the reality is, it'll of course be something balanced in between, and the big stressor is whether or not the voters are going to know the difference between an $8.4 billion bond or a $9.6 billion bond or 11 point whatever with all the Christmas ornaments on it. It's a lot of money, and there's people that believe that $1 billion here, $1 billion there, it's not going to matter.
Thank you. Bay Delta issues?
I've got something on that.
Go ahead, you start off, Don.
Let's see, when was that? February 10th, I met with Randy Fiorini, the chair of the Delta Stewardship Council, and the executive director, Chris Knopp. The primary reason for the meeting was Randy has written a preliminary report, or maybe it was even an editorial, in terms of how he thought storage should take place, not just in the valley, but in the Sierra itself. And when he thinks in terms of storage, he's thinking in terms of storage that has a direct impact on the Delta itself. And when he looks uphill, he sees us. So it's kind of a big deal for us how they think. It was interesting because what they're doing with storage is the Delta Stewardship Council has gone to the Water Commission, because the Water Commission is directly responsible for all storage issues, which I wasn't aware of. And the Water Commission is going to dump a questionnaire on Aqua and have Aqua carry the water for the Water Commission in terms of sending out a questionnaire to all of the member agencies, trying to figure out what adequate storage, appropriate storage maybe is a better term, that might be available for the Delta ultimately. The key thing for me was that Randy expects to find 5 million acre feet of additional storage in the Sierra. He sees as a real easy number to attain. And I kind of pressed him in the fact that you can probably find a lot of storage, but you've got to have the money in order to do that. And I said, the bond is not addressing this. So if the state is really interested in finding 5 million acre feet, then they've got to come up with a bunch of money in order to actually make that occur. And he's completely aware of it. And he doesn't see the bond concept as being functional. He thinks that we need to take more of an approach like Texas does in terms of statewide money in order to actually pay for this, because it is a statewide benefit. So it's a different way of looking things in Sacramento, because they've been bond oriented forever, and now they're looking other places. The other real issue for the Stewardship Council moving into the future is they see their role, or the governor's given them the role, or legislation, or whomever, as they're the guys that are going to herd the cats. So they've got a series of meetings planned out for this entire year, trying to get all of the agencies in the same room and working towards the same goals. They see this as where CalFed blew up, and they're real interested in doing it right. They don't want to come in with a big hammer. They would rather have a tact where, how do we work together? So that was the main things that came out of the meeting. The other thing with the Stewardship Council that we really appreciate is they see us up here as partners. There's no place else in the state that they look at. We're like their best friends. So we need to figure out how we can leverage that situation so that we don't get hurt too badly. It's all about water, and we've got it, and everybody wants it. So we need to be in a position where we try and keep some of it, and they take less than I'd like. But that was what the meeting was about.
Did you happen to ask him how he defined partner? That's what scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Don. Bay Delta issues, anything else?
It's mine, it's yours.
Reports.
Yeah, that's partnership.
Mitch, anything additional? General manager report?
Well, Jeff can help me out on this one, you've got younger eyes, but these are part of the package. Again, in keeping with our commitment to describe the water R&R program, this is the money in and the money out as it's currently setting, and the local community projection.
Thank you for the younger eye comment, because actually I am younger than that. Please ignore the April-June column, the numbers in there, but what you really want to look at in this particular case is I changed the format just a little bit on the report that we have. If you look here, this is through January 31st, month-end collections. This is what we billed on water here, $655,000 approximately. What we've spent to date on project costs included the capital program management, Reach 3A, and the ozone generators about $92,000, leaving us a balance of about $562,000 available for projects moving on. Now, when I look at expenses, this is what has been billed or charged to the system. It doesn't include work that is actually being done but not yet paid for. So there has been work done on some of these projects. It'll show up in subsequent months. But I think one of the comments made, and I believe it was from you, Director Stock, is that the monies we collected to date, how are we going to utilize them, and will they help fund future projects? This is what we're building upon, is this balance here that is going to be used in subsequent projects, along with the proceeds from the debt that we're going to issue. And we have some very major projects coming up. And the biggest project is going to be this one, Reach 3A at this point. And it'll be parsed out over 2 years. The engineering's going on now. They've had some significant work performed on that. They're looking at their alternatives, and we hope to break ground and do a portion of it this year and a portion of it next year. The challenges are working in the upper elevations, obviously, is weather related, and making sure you have the opportunities to plan and schedule your work accordingly.
All this sunshine's getting in the way?
Exactly. Now, if we go on to the next one, any questions on the water?
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. I'm wondering if, with the Reach 3 project, if I might be able to get a map by next month showing what that looks like. I'm getting tons and tons of questions. I'd like to be able to show a map to people saying this is what areas it's going to affect. The business owners are starting to wonder how this is going to affect their businesses, and I understand that.
We will be able to give you some material that gives you the layout for most of the reaches.
Okay.
I think at this point, there's still some questions because of some conflicts with existing infrastructure as to which the best piece is, but you can get 60, 70% of it anyway.
Cool.
You have something to share.
Thank you.
The next slide will cover the wastewater side. The rate from that are less than we do in water because of our customer base is smaller, obviously. To date, we've collected $215,000 in revenues. We've got about $28,000 coming in for a project that was funded through our operating budget. That's what that number is there. So we've got $243,000 revenue to date. Expenditures, we're working on basically 4 projects. This is a capital program management. The Millwoods tie-in, that was completed back in December for phase 1. So we're at about $33,000 there. We're working on review of our Copper Cove Lift Station 22 design and where we're going to move forward there. But we've already completed some significant work on lift stations 9, 10, and 11 Poker Flat. I believe 9 is completed.
9 is complete with the exception of the asphalt. It's got cold patch around it until the winter is over. 10 has got the overflow tank in place, and so that's where that's sitting.
So we're moving forward with that particular project. Total expenditures to date, a little under $106,000. That leaves us a balance of $137,000 in this fund for sewer-related projects. Any
Very good.
questions?
No, and thank you very much for keeping us apprised on those. This is moving forward like I thought it would. This information is also on the website? The updated,
The updated capital projects, it's reflected in a different actually on the website.
Yes, and it'll be updated. I wanted to present it to your board first, and then we'll put this data back onto the website.
okay, very good. Thank you.
The lift stations the 3 lift stations, did that cut our exposure pretty significantly down there? Or maybe significant isn't the right word.
They cut our exposure significantly on the one that's done. Each one of those little cul-de-sacs is, a disaster all unto itself. They're independent, so each one we take off the list helps.
Okay.
Absolutely. It makes a difference. One of the things, and I'll just go back here only because is has to do with the Copper Cove permit. This was a very large unknown item in our capital plan. We've had some communication with the regional board. Ultimately, we think we're looking almost $4 million in that. And we believe it's going to be much closer to about 1.5. So what we have to really do. So there's a little good news in the program that's overstretched.
All right, thank you, Jeff and Mitch. Lynn Gentry is not reporting anything.
Chairman, I think a few more items as we're doing the general manager.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me take the easy ones first. So there's a plant sale that's happening here by the Native Plant Society on April
25th. 25th of April.
25th. Last Saturday. And so ultimately, we're going to meet with those folks here later this week and be able to talk about what else we can do for education and awareness so that people get a feel for what these native plants and water conserving, fire safe plants look like, smell like, taste like. So that's an exciting event. Also, we were approached by the Calaveras County Office of Education, Science and Engineering Instructor, Mr. John Kinney. He's got a project going on, and he got a grant application for PGE Bright Ideas, and it's all about an aquaculture type of aquaponics type of project. He needed some in-kind donations, some old cyclone fencing, some other materials, some barrels, things like that, which we have available. So we will be trying to support this PVC cutters as they try to build this thing out. So he's looking for some matching support to go with his effort. So we are.
Where's he at?
He's physically located up here at the Oak.
Mountain Oaks?
Mountain Oaks.
Okay. What's their end product that they're growing?
Well, again, I have to ask, who's asking that question? DEA's not here, are they? No, their end product is fruits and vegetables. So all what they're trying to do is demonstrate products and make a sustainable household for family gardening. That's what it says.
Sure.
Moving on.
He didn't say barbed wire.
There is a notice that we've floated out, and you have a copy of the recent fact sheet that talks about water right holders likely to face curtailment in 2014. Again, this was part of the State Water Board's reaction to our water severities. And it's interesting because, as it turns up one of those very difficult areas to talk about is riparian water rights. And riparian water rights are going to be one of those things that really wouldn't exist in a drought year. And so, so it's almost counterintuitive that they're the first ones to get looked at, and then ultimately, some of the arrangements they made with riparian water right holders are very informal. And we have a bit of that, but not very much. It will be interesting to watch how it plays through. We have a potential exposure of 1,400 acre feet, upwards of riparian, 1,200.
Some portion.
So, not a big deal in the whole thing. Slew of things out there, but it's one more thing to keep an eye on.
We got plenty of things to keep eyes on.
Yeah. We had a
Let's talk about
request
when
from
something
the
happens.
school district, and I've asked Matt actually to respond on behalf of the board, because again, it goes back to a waiver of their fees because they're no longer using the school. And so again, once you connect, you stay connected. So Matt's initiating the initial response, so we'll see how that comes out.
Say that again?
What school are you talking about?
Which one?
It's Calaveras Unified School District.
Which school?
But what,
Jenny Lynn School.
Jenny Lynn School?
so what are they asking?
They closed the school, and so they, like a vacant building, they don't want to pay the water because their school's.
Well, Jenny Lynn School hasn't been closed.
No, it's alternate school. There's an alternate.
Oh, there's an old
Oh, the
school
high
down
school? Okay.
So they have a facility down there that's not being utilized. Presumably they want to sell it. But they would like to terminate services, and we're treating them like the rest of the services that we have in our system. And I wanted you to be aware of it because we pretty much have to do it this way. And Matt's going to go ahead and respond, and then if he comes back, he needs to have, aware what's going on.
So I just for clarification, they have more than one service down there?
Oh, yeah. Well, they have different facilities, but this particular facility has 2 connections.
Okay.
It might be like 2 half-acre lots. It's a continuation high school in Rancho. It's actually in the Jenny Lind area, I think. So they probably have, there may be 2 classrooms. I'm not even sure if there's 2 classrooms or not, but.
Okay.
We feel for them that our rate structure treats all properties the same. We don't have different classes. The final issue I'm throwing to you all has to do with, and I think I left you a copy of this, is Director Stump has been approached by a representative of, I don't know if he's really the representative of EPOC, but
He's the chair.
the chair, and so he's got a fairly long list of fairly onerous things that have been requested of him to provide. Many of these pieces of information have been provided, some of which are phrased and termed in a way that we can't respond. Ultimately, this could be a huge thing for staff time in order to support this effort. And before I go down the path I just want to make you all aware of it. The Director Stump is very responsive and respectful of that, saying, hey, this is a huge time suck. And as a director, he didn't feel real comfortable without having it shared that this is a big effort. And so ultimately, there's a big effort trying to answer those questions up there. And a lot of those questions are the same questions that frankly have never been.
Well, I think it would be funny to actually comply with his request and give him all the information he's requesting of my district. Because he's asking for information regarding District 5.
And I can't respond to all of these. I don't have that ability.
It's not your job.
I'm not the technician, I'm not the engineer, so I can't do that. But I'm uncomfortable handing it to staff and saying, okay, I need 3 of you guys to spend the next month playing
And
answering.
of what use, this is pretty technical, of what use would it ever be used for a productive purpose besides just informational gathering to see if he could do it?
It's hard to know. The folks in Lake Forest actually had some similar concerns, and they came in, and they sat down with us, and it took a lot of time to prepare, but they came away satisfied. At least they felt like they got answers. They may not have liked our answers, but that exchange was, I thought, valuable. This one seemed to be on a different tangent, to be quite frank, and I don't know how. to
Seems like
respond.
it's a test. Well, Dawn, Dawn, what do you think about the purpose of this information? And Mitch, would you comment on, is there